Oh, sorry. I had my voice modulator input in the wrong direction, and it was facing the wrong way. So that didn't come out very well. But I fixed it. Converted man here. I think I have a whole new series. I mean, the guy said it's part 1, and I listened to what he had to say. I'm like, oh, this is going to make a great series. I'm going to love this series. Now, I put the word love in quotation marks there. You didn't see me do that because I'm not on camera yet, and that's okay, because I'm going to go insane here in a moment, and yeah, here we go. Okay, let's get the camera going. Okay, let's do that. Wait, that's not the button. Okay, is this the button? That's the button. Yay! Woo! 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 I didn't even... All right. Okay, now. Wait, I think I've got the button hit. Okay, there. I think that. Yeah, that. I don't know. Meh. I don't know. I'm wasting my time and yours with this. Okay. No. Yeah. No. Yeah. No. Wait. I skipped past it again. There. Okay. There. No, that's blue. I'm blue now. No, I'm yellow. Okay. Dark. No. Gray. No. There we go. Okay. All right. Now that I've wasted a lot of time on pointlessness, here we go. Yeah. No. It's staying in. I'm not redoing this video. No, I'm being serious. Yeah. The God debate isn't about proof. Well, you got that right. It's not even about science versus religion. It's about atheism versus theism by Martin Braden, dispelling the accusatory fog. Science doesn't prove God exists, and it doesn't prove he doesn't. So why do many people believe science has already settled the God debate? In this introduction video to my 2026 series, I explain why the real issue is not science versus religion, but atheism versus theism. Two competing interpretations of reality, drawing from philosophy, scientific discovery, and a Latter-day Saints perspective. Latter-day Saints? Never covered a Latter-day Saints before. Oh, this is going to get really, really, really crazy. They have wild beliefs, I'm told, and have heard. I haven't looked at them in a while, but yeah, okay. Why data does not speak? Only scientists do. Why neither atheist nor theist have irrefutable proof? How worldviews shape what evidence we trust. So he's kind of like a pre-supper, I guess. Why belief in God has never been incompatible with scientific brilliance. And why probability, not proof, is where the real debate lives. Richard Dawkins admits he can't prove God does not exist. I openly admit I cannot prove God exists with absolute certainty. So what does that tell us about this debate? This channel is not about coercing belief. It's about honest thinking. If you're willing to examine both sides of the evidence and question why certain explanations feel more compelling than others, this series is for you. Subscribe, join the conversation as we explore God, science, meaning, and truth throughout 2026. All right. Now, my comment is, here's a whole new series for me to explore. Wee! Let's go. Yay. I didn't put wee. Hello, everyone. My comment for you as you watch this video is that science doesn't prove God, and it does not disprove him either. What many people don't realize is that science itself never makes philosophical claims. Only scientists do. and their interpretations are shaped by their worldview. The real question is science versus religions, atheism versus theism. What does your belief cursor fall on the probability spectrum and why? I genuinely like to hear your thoughts in the comments. All right. Well, that was a lot to read, but no citations, not a single one. Mwah! Beautiful. I love it. All right.
Then with that energy.
Now, is this AI slop? Don't worry. I know it's not AI slop, but it does contain some AI slop in it that he's using for visual cues and references. Because, you know, paying for somebody to do that, I mean, why?
I will reign with blood and horror on this earth.
Depart.
So I don't know why Jesus is so white there, because he would have been swarthy, he would have been darker, not like black, as some people believe, but he would have been Jewish, so he wouldn't be that white skinned. Satan's portrayed as red, and that like comes from Dante's Inferno. But yeah, Satan as such isn't really in the Bible. Like the devil is an invention of later church. Current translations of the Bible have the devil in there, but if you go back to the original, you won't see that there. It's an invention of the church. But anyways, yeah, welcome to his channel.
Hello, welcome to my channel.
Yeah,
one of the most honest things that evolutionary biologist and world-renowned author, atheist Richard Dawkins, admits in his book, The God Delusion, is that he can't prove God doesn't exist.
Okay. Interesting potential straw man of Dawkins and such. I don't know, but okay.
That said, I too want to be as honest with you as Richard was about my perspective on the matter. Right from the get-go, I want you to know that I too can't prove with absolute and incontrovertible certainty that God does exist, even though I truly believe he does. That said, Richard's and my admissions alone should tell you something very important about this ongoing debate. My name's Martin Braden, and I'm the author of the book, An Atheist Delusion. It's a...
All right. Well, I'm Deconverted Man, and I'm author of the books Caught Between an Infinite Hope, The Finite Despair, The Lightbringer, and Logic and Morals. So, buy my books. They're cheaper and shorter, and more interesting, and they can help you hammer in nails. Probably.
Latter-day Saints perspective on Richard Dawkins's anti-theist, anti-Christ book, The God Delusion. As a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, more commonly known as the Mormons, I bring a unique perspective to the God debate.
Ah, yes, the Mormons. Now, okay, so that's more of a familiar name, Mormons. Okay, so, I mean, they have their own beliefs, and they're kind of wild. This is I was thinking for a moment, it was like, I was thinking something else when I said Latter-day Saints. Is Joseph Smith? Is he the one? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Just making sure. Like, because I was thinking the other one, the Tower one, whatever the bleep that one's called. It's easy to get those cults mixed up. Oh, yeah. Mormonism. Is it a cult? Well, it was, but now it's a religion. What's the difference? Well, when a person is alive and running the show, and he's like the center person that's doing it, it's kind of a cult. But once they're gone, then it's a religion. Now, Mormonism has had its share of controversies as far as religion goes, but a big one is kind of like they do cut out people if you leave the church, so it's very much culty in that way, but it's not like a brutal cult sort of thing, but it's declared as religion by the U.S. government, and so it is, I guess. So Joseph Smith supposedly found golden tablets in a cave, and this angel Marati told him how to translate them, and then he proceeded to do that by looking into a hat that he held or somebody else held, and I think there was or wasn't a rock in the hat. I'm not sure if I'm getting that right. And one of the wives of the people that he convinced to join the church uh, destroyed a copy of whatever he'd written, and she was like, "All right, go get it retranslated from the angel, because you have the golden plates, which is the duplicate." And then he got a new version, and he said because it had gotten corrupted by what she did. Now she should have not destroyed the original, and so that we would have that to compare, because the new one obviously didn't match the other one. But she didn't do that. So she was excommunicated by the church. Another one of the people that helped out very early on was Oliver Cowdery, and I am somehow related to him. So if I became a Mormon because I'm related to Oliver Cowdery, and for no other reason, I would be like a high up position in the church without doing anything, just because of who I'm related to. And that's kind of neat. In fact, and I have no reason to disbelieve it, my mom had told me that there's like these white bricks that they have with names on them, and they pray over these bricks. And one of those bricks has my name on it, my real name, not my fake internet name of Dan Green, but my actual name, which I will never tell you guys or girls or robots online unless I really, really like you. So I guess I have Mormon genes. Yeah, I guess so. Well, I don't know. He's my like distant cousin, something. I don't know. So that's cool. So, but as a skeptic, I have to kind of dismantle some of their ideas. And one of their ideas is, and this is not something that you're told unless you get high tier in the Mormonism, they don't want people to know this, but because it's the information age, everybody knows everything now. We get to know if you work hard enough and if you do enough in the Mormon church, if you get enough people in, if you raise enough money, I don't know what you have to do, but if you do enough, you, in the afterlife, become a god of your own planet. And that's pretty cool. I guess it's a planet in our universe. I don't know. But I was like, well, wait a minute. If that idea is true, what you're saying to me is that if I became a Mormon and worked my butt off and I become a god, that'd be pretty cool. But then wouldn't I, that have God powers, even though it's for that planet, like I'm not like stuck to that planet, am I? I have God powers. So couldn't I, tell my past self that it's worthwhile to become a Mormon and join the faith? I don't see why not. So that didn't happen because it should have happened just now. The moment I thought of it, it should have happened. In fact, it should have happened long ago, but it didn't happen. So that means that either I didn't work hard enough to become a god, or Mormonism isn't true. In either case, I shouldn't become a Mormon because my time will have been wasted. Because if you can't achieve godhood, what's the point? Also, only 144,000 some odd people can get into heaven. And there's way more Mormons than that. But don't worry about it. If you work hard, you'll be one of them, maybe. Also, there's like baptism after you're dead and things like this. And then there's something about underwear, and I don't know. It's all very confusing. But I don't know if any of that will lead into any of his arguments for God. But I'm just saying it's kind of an interesting religion there. All right.
And so since the new year is upon us, year 2026, my goodness, I thought I would do a series of videos on the overarching topic from which all of my videos will flow going forward. And that topic is whether or not God exists, which
I'm here for it. All right, here we go.
as you know, springs forth a plethora of arguments and questions, those questions being what I call the big questions, including those offered by atheists like Richard Dawkins and all those who sit on the opposite side of this debate like myself. I will refer to this debate as simply the God debate. Just
All right. Well, it's a great intro so far, other than the AI slop, but whatever. Well, let's start off from a good position then. What is God? Because I need to know what you think God is. But even more important than the answer to that question for me is, how do you know that God is anything at all? And by what methodology did you arrive at that conclusion? So there must be some method that you have used that gets you from the position of, I don't know what God is, to, oh, there it is. That's God. There, I found it. Here's what it is. Now, in most of everyday common life, definitions come to us from the object first, or, well, the definition always comes secondary, I should say. I said it maybe wrong, but at any rate, so we have an object of some sort, like here's one, and we go, okay, we're going to name this thing. And this is named based on its functionality of nail clipper, toenail clipper, nail clipper, whatever. And then we call this little bit a file because it files things. But why file? Why was that the word instead of some other word? Because file, you also have files that you file in a filing cabinet, and that's not the same sort of file as this file. So why did we call it that? Anyways, nail clipper. So then we go, okay, that's a nail clipper. Why is it that? Well, because we named it that. It could have been named anything. But then we can describe what a nail clipper is like. It has to have the function of clipping nails. And although it could be used for other things, that's basically its primary function. And its really only intended use and functionality is to clip fingernails and toenails. Always be careful around the edges because you don't want to clip too much or you wind up clipping your skin. And although you have dead skin around, you could get the veins accidentally. I clip off the dead skin sometimes. It's just, I used to really get into it when I was younger and just clip and clip. And now that I'm older, I can't clip as much because I bleed. So I got to be careful. But anyways, the point is, so the thing came first, and then we labeled it, and then our explanation of it is in reference to it. But what I've noticed is when it comes to this thing that people call God, that the ideas about what God is comes first, then the label. So Yahweh, what's Yahweh? Well, Yahweh is X, Y, and Z. Well, but why is that Yahweh? Well, because that's what we said Yahweh was. But where is Yahweh? Well, he's in this book. Okay, but where is he outside of that book? Supposedly here among us. Okay, but where? Everywhere. Well, what's it look like? What's it sound like? What's it taste like? And it's like, well, it's not like that. And so it's like, well, how do you know that? That also is in the book. It's not, but it's not like this. It's not like a thing that you can hold up and show to people. So it's a very weird concept like that. And some people like to say God is kind of like the wind. You can't see it, but you can feel it. It's like, yeah, but you can test the wind. And also the wind is a result of natural phenomenon that's due to heat and cold being different levels in different places on the earth. And, that's why the wind happens. And so is God like that then? No. God is different than that. So what is God like? But more importantly, how did you figure out that was God? With the nail clipper, how we figured out it was a nail clipper is we just called it that and said that's what it was. And then we can describe what a nail clipper does and how it functions. And other people with other nail clippers can compare and contrast. And what's interesting about a nail clipper is over time, you'll have a convergence on functionality to a single solitary design. One example of this phenomenon is your phone. Does your phone look like this? Like it's a square rectangle and probably black? Why? They used to be in all shapes and sizes. Earlier on, in the 1990s, there were all sorts of shapes and sizes, and now almost all of them are this square rectangle, about this thin. Some are thinner, some are thicker, some are flexible, some can do things that others can't, and I almost broke my phone by trying to flex it, so don't try to flex your phone unless your phone can do that. So why? Well, it's easier to make it this way. Now, phones are still different shapes and sizes a little bit, but I suspect that they'll all conform eventually to a single standard because it's cheaper to make phone cases that way. But I could be wrong. Cars are another example of this version of conformity at some level. There's always 4 wheels on a car. We've tried 3-wheel cars. They don't really work. And having 6 wheels isn't really necessary unless you're doing something with those extra wheels. So you don't use them unless you're going to be using them. And so you have a convergence of agreement on a particular physical item that we all have, even though people have come from different backgrounds, different cultures, different belief systems, etc. They all go, hey, this thing works best, so that's what we're going to use. So your screen is probably a thin screen for your computer or laptop. Whereas back in the day, they'd be like this big, and TVs used to be that big, and now they're all thin. Well, why? Because we can make them thinner, and it's cheaper, and it's easier, and it's less energy, and so on and so on. So the reason I'm going down this rabbit hole, you might be going, what does any of this have to do with anything? Is an agreement happens among humans for technology and for items to some extent. There's a standard screwdriver, and then there's the Phillips screwdriver. And the shape of these things is like almost universal across the board. Then you have those triangle shaped screws, stuff like that, or you'll have the hexagon shaped screws. But if they want it to be something that the general public can mess with, they'll make it into a flat or a plus shape. It's just easier. Lights, blue, green, yellow, and red. Blue? Yeah, blue in Japan, even though it's not really blue, but it's it looks, I don't know. I didn't pay attention when I was I should have paid attention to that when I was in Japan, but it was like the last thing on my list of things to pay attention to was the light color. But they say blue. But anyways, green, yellow, red. Why? Well, it's easy, and it's easier when we all agree upon certain things. Same like, the way that we do numbers, metric or the way that America does it, which is not like anyone else because America. But anyways, my point is we have agreement upon an idea. Not so with God. With God, what you mean by God varies from person to person, place to place, region to region, and religion to religion. The Mormon concept of God, Jehovah, is very different than the Protestant Christian that isn't Mormon version of God. And it's very different than the Catholic version of God. And it's very different from the Islamic version of God in key, distinct, unique ways. I could be wrong, but I think that it's the Mormons who don't believe in the Holy Spirit, or that's the other guys. I'm not sure. But they have different ideas of what God is and how God functions. And how did they get to that conclusion? Well, the honest answer, if they would provide it, would be because that's what the book said. the Bible and the Book of Mormon. And there's another book that they have, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up. But that's what informs them about what God is and how God functions, etc. But there isn't a thing that you can say, here, look at God yourself, and you can see how it works. Just like, hey, look, I don't even need to tell you what this is. You can just look at how it works and how it's assembled. It's got 3 parts. Well, it's got more than 3 parts, but it has 3 useful parts. It has this 2 metal things stuck together, and it has this other little bar, and it has this bar, and you put this here, and then it gives you this lever to work with, and that's what allows for pressure be put there. And so it's easy to build it, and you can build it, and you can make your own if you have the parts and the ability to do so. And we could all talk about it and explain it decently to each other, and we could be different languages, different cultures, and we're still going to agree that this is a nail clipper. Even if the word is different, we're going to agree upon what it is and how it works, but not with God. With God, it's across the board. Humans don't agree with what it is. So this guy's version of God is not the Judeo-Christian version of God. It is a modification, an extraordinary modification of that God. Jesus beams down to the Americas to talk to the Native Americans that are there at the time and tell them additional stories so that he can save them. Now, that's cool, but why didn't Jesus go to like China and like, Japan and Russia? I mean, why just America? Well, it's a story that Joseph Smith sold to the early settlers of America. It's been 1800s, 1900s, something like that. Again, I'd have to look it up because basing this off memory is terrible. But at any rate, so it was a good story because it's like, hey, we're here to America. We want something that's ours. We want the religion to mean something. It's about this land. It's about, it's about this. So there. Oh, by the way, the Book of Mormon is also the golden tablets were written in ancient Egyptian or something like that, which apparently Egyptian wouldn't have been a thing in Native Americans. So, and by the way, if you're curious like I am of where these golden tablets are, if we can look at them, nope, sorry, the angel took them back to heaven with him, and he left nothing behind for us to look at. How convenient. Oh, also Joseph Smith was a known fraudster, but that doesn't mean he was lying. I mean, just because he wanted there to be polygamy and all that, and that would have been a driving reason to make a religion and money. But don't worry about it. Oh, yeah, the way he died? Oh, man, that's a good story. Yeah, he was hunted down by a mob who shot him in the back as he was trying to get out of jail. He thought people were coming to save him, though, from his church. Didn't work out. Whoops. Anyways, but so I don't know what God is or how you know what God is. So that's the point of all those ramblings that I just had. Back to the video.
Despite centuries of doing philosophy, theology, and science, neither side of this God debate, the atheist side or the theist side, has produced a single thread of irrefutable proof for their side's view of reality, period. And so that fact leaves me saying that this debate is not really about proof at all. In my experience of more than 71 years of life, I've come to the conclusion that most people don't arrive at their beliefs about God because the evidence forces or drives them there. They arrive there because they've chosen which stack of so-called evidence they're willing to trust.
Well, I don't know how you got to that conclusion of yours, but I'd have to say that it's not quite the case. the reason that any given person believes in a god of any sort varies from person to person, but there is a consistent theme in that they were told about it by somebody that they cared about, trusted, etc. Usually a parental type figure. For most people, they were raised in church, went to church, grew up hearing about God, talking about God, worshiping God, and believing in God when they were young. And so it stuck with them as they got older. Now, sometimes they keep going to church and sometimes they stop. And it seems like the current generation has broadly stopped going to church, although they still believe in God. But church attendance is way, way, way down. And I don't think it's going to recover. The current generation doesn't seem to really care about church. And that's bad for, the church, but it's good for the skeptic. And a lot of religion has come online, if you will. There's services offered online, and people have done apologetics to try to get money doing that. So it's become a different thing. People still go to stage plays, but not that many. People still go to the movies, but not that many. These things, it's unclear if these things are going to die. Well, maybe the movies will die out. Hopefully not stage plays, but it depends where you are. So whether, the society we have has changed drastically and fundamentally. And so religion will eventually have to change or it will die. But anyways, the reason why people come to various God beliefs is they're told about it. Somebody somewhere tells them about this idea. They're exposed to it. It's in the culture around them. They hear about it. They read about it. And for some people, the idea sticks. And for some people, not so much. Some people come to it from an intellectual sort of pursuit of knowledge. But most people, I would dare say, come to it because of what we call indoctrination. They were told it as a young kid, and they still believe it. And presumably they will tell their kids that God exists, and they will tell them that it's their version of God. And whether those kids continue that belief or not, who knows? But that's usually why. There's a pressure of culture around that person to conform to that culture around them. So, like I said, that's changing today because less people care about God, it seems like, or think about it in any deep or meaningful way. It's more like a meme than ever before. So it's an uphill battle for religious people to get the young, and they need the young because that's what's going to keep them in business. So I think that the reason why you might say that it's not about evidence is you're trying to be somewhat honest, because when it comes to religion, what evidence is there? At least about the God itself. For the religion, the evidence there will actually make a person a skeptic about that religion. Like everything I said about Joseph Smith, a lot of that's going to be changed or denied or waved away by the church. Oliver Cowdery was excommunicated, I believe, for a while, and then non-excommunicated later on for different reasons. The whole polygamy thing went out of style really fast, and the church pretend like that doesn't happen, and the idea that there's a living prophet and the current prophet's always right about everything, and then even when they contradict the last prophet that was always right about everything, it's kind of like when the Pope says something that's just true even if the other Pope said a different thing, although there have been many cults that have been arisen from Mormon beliefs because of their idea that a prophet can be anybody. So that's interesting too. A lot of different cults have been born using Mormonism as a gateway into saying, "Oh yeah, I'm the prophet, I'm the Jesus, I'm the I'm the whatever, I'm the new Messiah. Sure, why not follow me?" But anyways, so the reason, yeah, it's not about evidence. You don't have any, and the evidence that there is, if you looked at it honestly, would make you go, "Well, this is not true," because there's no golden plates. They never were there. There's no reason to think that they were. You have a guy that's a known fraud saying, "Hey guys, I found golden plates in a cave. Cool. Take me to the cave and show me them." Oh, I'm not going to do that. Why not? Because it's hidden. You don't get to see them. And I buried them somewhere else. Sure. Can I go see them? No, nobody saw these golden plates but him. And then he looked into a hat. Yeah, whatever. So why would you believe that story? Somebody's like, "Here's what God tells me, blah, 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 blah." You shouldn't believe that story knowing that this person's a fraud. But people did. They did believe the story. And all it takes is one person to be like, "Hey, that's an interesting story. Sure, I believe it." Even if they're just faking it because, hey, you're going to promote polygamy? Ooh, that sounds fun. I like that. More than one wife? Yes, please. Sign me up. Sex, sex, sex. And then you have 2 people, then 3, then 4, and then half a dozen. And eventually what happens is, even if you all know that you're lying about it, you stop worrying about it's a lie because it's now justifying your actions that you wanted to take. So you stop believing that it's a lie and you start treating it like it's the truth. And then you come to believe that it's true because that's how your brain works. You can convince yourself that it's true if you just keep saying that it's true and believing that it's true and thinking it's true and wanting it to be true. And you can make money doing that. And people do. And you can get a lot of sex from doing that. People do. And you can get power and fame from doing that. And people do. So the reason why people believe in God isn't really to do with evidence. In a way, you're right. But also you're wrong because it's not about looking at the evidence, because if you did look, you should be a skeptic. So it is about your indoctrination that you received as a young person, and or you were introduced to this idea about God and it was compelling to you for different reasons that motivated you on psychological factors. Anyways, back to the video. My word, that was a long detour.
Atheists tend to accept and trust the evidence that aligns with atheism, and theists tend to accept and trust the evidence that aligns with theism.
Evidence for atheism? I don't know what the hell that would be. That doesn't even make sense to me. I label myself atheist, and thanks to my survey, it seems that the word atheist means don't believe in God. So the evidence that I don't believe in God is not something I can really present unless I had, like, I don't know, some sort of machine that read my thought waves and could show that I was really thinking that there wasn't a God or something, or that I don't believe in God, or, whatever the machine would show. Like, that would be the only evidence I could give of atheism. So do you want to, like, spend some money to get me out to a laboratory that has the right equipment so we can get that done? I'm happy to do that if you want, but I'm not going to fund it. You're going to have to fund it, So, but that would be the only evidence for atheism, because atheism is I don't believe in God. And the only evidence of I don't believe in God is me saying I don't believe in God. Unless, of course, we did, some sort of thing that put on my head and read the brain waves and saw that I was being honest about it and all that. We'd have to hook up other people and do that and say, hey, yeah, look, see all these people, they don't believe in God. There's your evidence that atheism is correct. They actually really don't believe in God, because that's what the word is. So are you asking for that? I don't know.
And as I said, it's not because one side has incontrovertible proof and the other side doesn't. It's because their set of conclusions derived from a particular stack of evidence makes their worldview feel more reasonable, more.
No, it's not about feelings at all. I reject that on principle. If you have evidence, then you should be compelled by the evidence to go where it leads. Bernard Russell said, ask yourself only what are the facts, and what, or, what is the truth that those facts bear out. So I'm only interested in the facts or the evidence. So on one hand, you're saying there is no evidence, and then on the other hand, you're saying that there is evidence, but people look at it differently. So which is it? Is there evidence or not? If there isn't evidence, then you can't look at it differently because there's nothing there to look at. But if there is evidence, then surely you should be able to present it. And then the way I look at it should be how it is presented. That is to say, hey, that's really a thing, and we can all agree upon it. Hey, look, you know what this is? Okay, can you name what this is? Tell me what this is in the comments section. Person that uploaded this video that I'm responding to. Okay, you know what this is? Okay, cool. I'm assuming you did. And so we can both agree upon that because I actually have the evidence, and there's not an interpretation of it because of different worldviews. This is just a way to separate yourself from the problem of not having any evidence at all, so you can do the whole precept nonsense of, well, it's just the way that you look at things. I have evidence here, but you don't, and you have evidence. It's the same thing, but we're looking at it differently. No, you don't have any evidence at all. That's the problem. And that's why I don't believe. If you had evidence, then I would believe. I don't know, something like the golden plate still being around at least would be something. Or heck, if Jesus came back to come to the Americas way back when, then he could do it again. So where's that? Why doesn't that happen? I don't know. Anyways.
More comfortable and more coherent for them than the other side stack of evidence. Richard Dawkins places God's non-existence at just over 50% probability on what he's called his percentage of probability spectrum scale.
Did he? Citation? Well.
After examining the same question from my Latter-day Saint perspective, having drawn on specific discoveries, philosophical reasoning, and personal experience, my belief cursor regarding God's existence sits at the far end of the spectrum, where it says God exists.
Oh, I see. That's what you were talking about when you were asking about where the cursor lands. Well, it's going to change depending. I can't do this. It's impossible. I can't put my cursor anywhere on this. I will not assign an arbitrary probability to something that I don't believe in. That's incoherent to me. It would always. I won't do it. I just don't believe in it. But as far as it being something that could be true or whatever, you'd have to demonstrate that it could be true. But I still won't assign a probability to it. I get what you're trying to ask, but I just won't do it. And then for the Joseph Smith version of God, I guess I could do it for that one. That one doesn't exist, period. 0% on that one. I'm happy to do it with that one. Other types of gods, maybe. But the Joseph Smith Mormon version of God, nope. That one is made up. But a different God, maybe. I don't know. But I wouldn't really want to assign a probability. But even though I did. But I did that just for you. Just to say no to the Mormon version of God specifically. But don't worry about it. I also say that to Yahweh. So it's okay.
In fact, for me, my belief cursor sits on the 100% God exists marker on Dawkins' percentage of probability spectrum.
But I mean, it doesn't look like it's at 100%. It looks like it's like at 90%. Why didn't you put the image like over, like put the cursor where it belongs? You didn't put it where it belongs. The AI did your art wrong.
But here's the key point. Richard and I are both doing the same thing. We're both choosing to believe evidence that aligns with the worldview we feel more comfortable with.
Okay, so there is evidence, and then you're choosing which evidence to believe.
And are willing to embrace due to our own life's experiences. My book, An Atheist Delusion, and this channel, Dispelling the Accusatory Fog, are not about forcing belief. They're about...
Yeah, they are. It's absolutely what you're trying to do. You absolutely want people to believe what you believe. Don't pretend otherwise. Whereas I just want you to use informal logic, which you're not doing.
Helping you, my viewers and readers, understand the why behind you believing what you believe and whether...
Oh, the why is because I care about empirical evidence, repeatable tests, and sound arguments. That's easy.
Whether or not you're honestly examining the evidence on both sides of the debate.
This is rather incoherent because you don't have evidence on your side. And for the atheist position, there's no evidence for that because it's not that sort of thing. Again, it's just not believing in whatever God is. That's what makes you an atheist. It's not that we're saying there is no God, although I think that that's what you're trying to go for here. But even if that was the case, there wouldn't be any evidence for that either, because you don't have to show that something isn't. The burden of proof is on the positive claim. Usually. Mostly. Typically. Especially when whatever God is isn't even agreed upon by humans. So I would say the burden of proof is upon the one that claims it, not the one that says nope to it.
Before you permanently choose which side you believe most. It is my hope that you'll be willing to seriously consider the big questions about God, science, and meaning by accepting my invitation to continue with me in this journey, this video journey through 2026. And
oh, I'm here for it, but I'm more concerned with people using informal logic and reason and skepticism to try to get to the truth if we can. That means critically examining our own ideas and beliefs, whatever they might be, and looking at actual evidence, not things that we're calling evidence that isn't evidence, and being honest about our limitations of knowledge and our limitations on how we approach things because we are emotional creatures, and recognizing that our psychology is one that we have to accept is one that's going to might lead us down the wrong path because we're pattern seeking creatures. So I would encourage people to be skeptical and use logic. And if they don't know informal logic, for crying out the window, learn informal logic.
then decide at that time what you honestly believe. I'm confident that you'll find it challenging, respectful, and ultimately worth the investment of your precious time.
Well, I don't know about that, but I mean, I'm still going to do it because it's fun.
As you watch each of my videos this year. As I said down in the description for this video, neither atheist scientists or theist scientists have produced any absolute, irrefutable proof for their position. And
yeah, but apparently God, whatever it is not a thing that we have found in science. And it seems that we're able to do science quite well without ever invoking God. Science is a tool. It's a methodology. It is a way of examining and scrutinizing the world that we inhabit. We observe things. We document what we observed. We share that documentation with somebody else. Then that person says, okay, cool. I'm going to look at that too. Write down my observations. Hey, look, they're the same as yours. So that's pretty good. Or they're going to say, oh, no, I looked at that and you're wrong about this, and this. And then more people do that, and more people, and more. And it's really cool. Now, it's not a perfect thing because we are imperfect creatures, but it's probably one of the best tools that we have to get to how things work or why and what to do with that knowledge and all that. And as a subset, perhaps, of science, you'll find informal logic, which is my thing. Oh, why did I do that? It hurt my ears. Why? Entertainment. That's why. It did hurt my ears, though.
That's precisely why this debate is so emotionally charged and intellectually challenging. But here's what's interesting to me. Recent scientific discoveries, many coming from atheist scientists themselves, are beginning to raise new evidence-revealing questions that buck up against past claims. Questions that, at least for me, are pointing more and more toward God's handiwork.
Now, remember, he said that because of your worldview, you will look at the evidence in a certain way, which, I mean, I don't even know what my worldview is, so it doesn't apply to me. But I've heard this claim before. The science is proving God all the time. More and more it's proving God. More science, more God. And a lot of apologists are using this motif to try to make it sound like, yes, God is a thing that we found in science. Yay! Cool. What science? Oh, remember he had no citations. So what are you talking about?
Then they are pointing away from it. Ultimately, every one of us choose which stack of evidence we're most comfortable with.
Hold on there. Are you going to tell us what the evidence that science has supposedly found that points to God? Or are you just going to say that it did?
And that's because we want to believe in our worldview.
He's just going to say that it did. Yeah, you want to believe in what you believe. I don't have that. I just don't. It's not something I can prove to you. You'll just have to take my word for it. Again, we could do the whole brain thing if we want to set up that test. But if I'm wrong, cool. And then I learned something new. And it doesn't bother. Well, it might bother me, but that's okay. I want it to be that I learn new stuff. And that inevitably means that I'm going to learn that I was wrong about something. And that's okay. And I'm not attached to, again, I don't know what my worldview is. I know what I require to believe in things. If you want that, that's the closest I guess I could come to a worldview. And that is very simple. It's empirical evidence, a repeatable test, or a sound argument. If you have one of those three things, then I agree with it, whatever it is. And so far, the apologist in this video has not presented any of those three things to me. He has said that science has things that point to God. Okay, what would that be? I already know the punchline, if you will, when it comes to the Mormon God. And I already know that I don't believe in it. In fact, I think it can't be. I think it would be logically impossible. But if you had evidence, then I'm wrong. Cool. Show me the evidence then. What evidence would there possibly be that science has discovered that would prove the Mormon version of God? Because that's the only God that would matter to prove, wouldn't it?
What I'm suggesting here is that you don't make this choice lightly. Before you make your final decision, ask yourself these two questions. Why do I accept one stack of evidence over another one's? Why does the one explanation I'm leaning towards feel more compelling or more comfortable to me than the opposite side's explanation.
Yeah, and if you're going off of emotions, which is something I would say not to do, then you might make up your mind based on emotions and not logic. So don't use your emotions. Screw your emotions. Set those aside. It's not about whether I like it or not. The truth is, whatever. You know, I mean, I might ask out somebody randomly that comes to my channel in hopes that they will say yes to my invitation to go out on a date. And they will probably, almost certainly, say, no, deconverted man, that's creepy and weird. Don't do that. And it's not okay. To which I will inevitably say, I was just teasing. Please go out with me. And then, but that will be the truth, right? What? Don't do it. But I was gonna, don't. Okay, my producer says, drop that bit. It's not funny. I thought it was, but all right, fine. I'll go with my invisible producer that doesn't really exist this time. But next time, I'm going to ask somebody out so that I can have my example of that happening. And I don't remember what the point of any of this was. Oh, right. I would accept the truth even though it hurt my feelings. That's it. And I got there eventually. It just was a really weird way to go back to the video. Let's just do that. Oh, wait, hold on. Is God a scientific hypothesis? No, apparently not. If it was, we could test it, and that would be interesting. But whatever God isn't a science thing for reasons. And people have tried to test God. And in fact, I'm pretty sure the Old Testament has a test of God, but we're not allowed to do that. I don't know why. So, anyways, and then who has the burden of proof? Whoever makes the positive claim, broadly speaking. Their negative claim, it depends on the type of negative claim, if you have the burden of proof or not. It gets complicated, but sometimes it's really easy. There is no dinosaur in my room right now. You see? No dinosaur. Dinosaur, well, most of them are really big. Maybe I should make a specific type of dinosaur. There is no living T-Rex in my room. The proof is that there is no living T-Rex at all, and especially not in my room. And so the proof is that it's not here. There you go. Anyways.
My channel exists for one reason, to offer a Latter-day Saints perspective that challenges the idea that belief in God is irrational and outdated, and to show that the probability of God's existence may be much further along the percentage of probability spectrum towards the marker that says God exists than you may be willing to admit.
No, it's just about if you actually have any evidence at all, which so far you've said that you have evidence, but I know you haven't presented anything yet. So if you had evidence, just give us that. Whether we accept it or not, who cares? At least we'll have the evidence.
Science and data itself do not say or claim anything. Only scientists do.
That's actually true.
As mathematician John Lennox has pointed out in past writings and debates, scientists interpret data, and interpretations, even by brilliant scientists, are not the same thing as scientific proof. In our modern world, science carries enormous cultural authority, and understandably so. Scientific discoveries and technologies have blessed humanity in remarkable ways. That's a fact. But we must keep in mind authority can be and often is misused. When scientists move from describing data to interpreting it, meaning when they start making philosophical claims about God or purpose, they've stepped outside the boundaries of science and into.
I actually agree. And so them being a scientist is wholly irrelevant to claims that they'll make about God, which makes me wonder why good old Tub of Lard there bothers to say that he was a mathematician at one point. Who cares? Has nothing to do with God. So why do you bring it up all the time there, Lennox? Maybe because you want to impress people with the fact that you used to do math a long time ago and had a few papers about it that weren't really well cited, almost like you were a failed mathematician or something that turned to apologetics as a way to make money. I'm just saying, you know.
To worldview. This is why the real debate is not between science and religion. It's between atheism and theism, two competing interpretations of reality. History.
Huh? I don't know how my not belief is an interpretation of reality. I mean, that really doesn't make sense. Now, if I was saying there's no God, that also wouldn't be an interpretation of reality. It'd just be an interpretation of one aspect of reality. Like, I guess for the theist, like, you think, like, without God, the universe isn't possible, maybe, or something like that. But I'm like, hey, with or without God, there's still a universe. That I know. I know there's a universe of some sort that I am in. So that's real. Now, I don't know why or how the universe, whatever, and that's something that we can discover using methodology that actually produces a result, like science. It's no good for us to just go, I feel like it's God. That doesn't do us any good because it might feel nice, but that doesn't make it true. And somebody's like, no, but God made everything. Uh-huh. Cool. Why? Well, it was bored one day. Okay, tell me more. It's a story. Why should I'm like, what God? Well, God, no. The thing that made everything. Where is it? Well, you can't see it. Well, why not? Well, because it's not here. It's invisible. How do you know it's invisible? These are basic questions. How do we know that God is not, in fact, a thing that might resemble an aquatic creature known as the lobster? Now, I've said plenty of times that nobody has even tried to debunk the lobsterist. So why not? That must mean the lobsterist is true then. And if you don't want it to be true, that's just because you don't want it to be true. It's not about the evidence that I'm not going to tell you about. All the evidence that's clearly there.
He reminds us of this. Some of the greatest scientific minds, people like Isaac Newton, saw no conflict between scientific discovery and belief in God.
Don't care. It's irrelevant. Didn't you just say that when scientists step outside their field to talk about God, they're not doing science anymore? Yet you're referencing scientists who talked about God. Why do we care if they're scientists or not? It's irrelevant to what their thoughts are about God. If science can't comment on God, then it doesn't matter what scientists say. It's an appeal to the wrong authority. In fact, there'd be no right authority to appeal to if God is not a scientific thing. I guess that makes God what? A philosophical thing? Okay, well, how do we know that something is true within philosophy? We still need a system. So what system are we utilizing? If not science, then what? Logic? That would be cool. Let's use logic then. We're not doing it in this video, but I would like us to use logic. Can we use logic, please? No? Okay, keep going.
Newton believed the order of the universe pointed to an intelligent, governing being. He did not see science as replacing God, but as revealing him. Another brilliant scientist, Nikola Tesla, held similar views. His groundbreaking inventions came to him as vivid mental images, which he believed were connected to a higher source of intelligence.
So what? It's irrelevant. That doesn't make it true. Also, he wasn't a Mormon. Like, wouldn't you need Mormon scientists?
These examples of brilliant scientists I've mentioned here, and there's many more I could have mentioned, don't prove God's existence, but they do prove something important. Belief in God has never been incompatible with scientific brilliance.
But it is incompatible with the tool science. That is to say, if you try to apply science to the God idea, setting aside the belief part, the God idea evaporates because there's no predictions, there's no hypothesis, there's no theory there, there's no there. Now, again, people have attempted to do different experiments to indicate like a soul or a spirit or paranormal ideas of various sorts. And every time those tests have failed to produce any results that we wouldn't expect from nature alone. So we don't apparently have a way to test for a God. So I don't know where this idea comes from that anyone that's a non-believer doesn't believe in God because of something science said. That's just, I don't think that that's true. And the non-believers I've interacted with, that's not why that's why they don't believe in God. It's nothing to do with that. So this whole thing is a construct straw man. It's not even an actual debate that anyone's actually having. No one bothers to say that science doesn't prove God or that it disproves God. It would be silly to do that. We know that. The theists tell us that all the time. In fact, the theist will tell you you can't use science on God. I don't know how they know that, but they'll tell us. What? I got to read this. The Thermal Biscuit de Newburgh, well, Fira Devota argued, saying that the roll was a buttered syllogism, concluding that it was a latte in tuffe, which is absurd because lobsters exist. Exactly. Anyways, back to Mormon.
So when we're told that, quote, science has settled the God question once and for all, we should pause and ask ourselves whether we're hearing science speak or someone's philosophy.
You know, I don't know that anyone's ever actually said that, though. Like, do you have an example of somebody that said that? I mean, the thing is, at best, like, Napoleon had some general, this is again off the top of my head, somebody will tell me in the comments below or in the chat. It's like, well, Napoleon said to the guys, like, oh, where's your mention of God? And the guy's like, I had no need of that hypothesis or whatever, right? So it's like, we just don't need it, apparently. You know, it works just fine. It's a separate thing, like you've already said. Cool. But you say that there's evidence, which means that science could examine that evidence, which means science could prove God then. But then on the other hand, you're saying that there isn't evidence. So I think that you're confused, sir. But I could be wrong. I'm not, but I could be.
The truth is, where you personally choose to land on this question is ultimately up to you.
Well, I don't know. I mean, kind of, to some extent, it might be up to you. Like, but also, again, our brains are really weird. Like, can you really decide that, let's say that you already believed in God. Could you decide, oh, I'm going to switch it to the Mormon version of God? Like, just cuz? Or would it would take a lot, I would think, to convince you that it was true. You know, evidence, some sort of brilliant argument. You'd have to have something. Maybe, I don't know, if you had a vision of Joseph Smith being like, hi, I told the truth. Here's the angel Moroni. Hi, I'm the angel Moroni. Oh my God, I have like 1 million eyeballs or something, because angels look really weird, you know? And I don't know what it would look like, but it's always depicted as like a person with wings, but like that's not a biblical angel. So it'd be like something with like 1 million eyeballs, I think, and like tentacles. Like, I am Moroni, fear not. And you'd be like, oh my God, what the hell? No. The Mormon God. That's the right God. Okay, can you prove it? Oh yeah, here's the golden tablet. Oh, okay. How do I translate this? Oh, I'll tell you. Okay, cool. Can I keep it this time? Yes, of course. I want everybody to know about it. Well, why are you here instead of God itself? Well, God's really busy. Why do you talk like that? I don't know. I have tentacles. You know, then you'd have some reason to believe. But since that didn't happen, you know.
My goal with this video series is not to coerce what you should believe, but to encourage honest thinking about it. And so regardless of where your belief cursor currently sits on the percentage of probability spectrum, I'm inviting you to honestly consider why you believe what you believe.
No, dishonestly do it. Dishonestly evaluate your system with as much dishonesty as possible. You don't need to talk like this. Yes, people are going to honestly evaluate an idea. I don't know why they wouldn't. But I really wish you just, you know, present the thing, and you're not doing that. I guess you're like saving it for the next video. But like, why wait? Like, you never know when you're going to go. And if we don't go as a Mormon, I don't know what happens. Are we screwed? Do you have to pray for us to get in? I don't know how it works. Wait, are they the people? And then again, this is from the top of my memory. There's a group of people, and I don't know if it's Mormons or not, but they have like actual tape players, you know, like back when I don't know if they've updated their technology, but they had like actual, you know, physical tape players, and it had like prayers about like different names. And it would just go in loops over and over again. So it'd be like, I'm praying for whoever, and it'd just be on this like endless loop, and it's playing so that it's being prayed to God constantly 24/7, which I'd have to imagine is really annoying if you're God. That's just a recording. I know. Okay, turn it off for a sec. Can you give me a... Oh, they have a lightning tower. Damn it! I can't hit them. They've got that damn lightning tower. Satan, go do something about them. What? I don't know. Do something. Oh, what do you want me to do? Burn them down or something. Okay. But leave the Bible behind. Oh, all right. Yeah. I'm Roddy. This is what I talk like. We're supposed to take it seriously and honestly. Don't forget that honestly part.
Oh, there you go. This video is an introduction and the first video in a series of videos I'm going to be doing for 2026 regarding this God debate. By doing this series, I hope to cover as many of the questions and arguments that have and continue to flow from it.
I have a question. Does Moroni have 1 million eyeballs and tentacles and sound like this? And if not, is it blasphemy to suggest that Moroni has 1 million eyeballs, tentacles, and sounds like this? Also, question. Wait. If I became a god, could I time travel into the past to talk to myself now? And also, if you become a god, can you time travel into the past to tell me that Mormonism is true right now? And why didn't you do that? In fact, can any Mormon time travel from the future into the past once they became a god and tell me and also the rest of the world where they're at it that Mormonism is the true religion that they should follow? And if not, why not? That's my question. I know that was more than one question. Do you think he's going to answer that? I don't know. We'll find out.
Each video will be my response to one or more of Richard Dawkins's arguments that he.
Why Dawkins? Why not me? I'm right here. Pick me. Me. Pay attention to me. See you next time.